you create this kind of ideal persona with all the ideal traits and skills, and you think, okay, this person is perfect and they're going to have great success in the world, people will like them, all that jazz. So I just have to become this person. And then you aren't actually that person. So every day is another test where if you fail, you think that other people are going to know that you aren't actually this person, and they're going to basically just reject you outright, and you won't have any friends, and your life will fall apart.
Hello, listeners.
Hello.
How are you doing? It's been about a week since the last podcast. Don't know how long between that one going up and this one going up, but
yeah, I have no idea, man. I'm still figuring out the order that these are going up on the fly a little bit. So we'll
fair
see.
enough. Oh, are they not up in order?
Not exactly, no, because I've been trying to get it such that the well-being ones can go up as like a set in order. And then also like sense. One of the last ones I threw up at the beginning of the line because I wanted to hit it on our anniversary.
That makes a lot of sense.
So the books one just went up, I think, the other day. But anyways, speaking of it being so long,
and
listeners,
growing, in fact,
look at how much you've grown since the last time we saw you.
Right? I'm like 20 centimeters taller.
Wow.
That's such a good segue.
Anyway. That is fantastic.
That's I mean, that wasn't a segue. That just naturally happened into the theme of growth mindset.
There you go. Today we want to talk about growth and fixed mindsets.
Which it's going to be a lot of aid in explaining what it is, because you definitely read more of the psychology sort of like books like that, like how to optimize how efficient you are and like.
Yeah, so I think the first time that I heard about it was during the well-being course. Mm-hmm. And when I saw the definitions of these terms and what people on either side would typically say, it was kind of a big slap in the face because I almost exactly saw myself.
In which one?
In the fixed mindset.
Oh, no. Wait, is that the one you don't want to be?
Yes, that is exactly the one you don't want to be. So what the difference is that someone with a growth mindset is someone who believes that their skills or their qualities, they can change and be trained to become better.
Yeah.
Whereas someone with a fixed mindset is someone that thinks that their qualities are fixed and can't change. So the idea is people are smart or dumb. You're either good at a certain, say, sport, or you're not.
You're a good writer, you're a bad writer, you're good at math, you're bad at math. Okay. That is really interesting, because we were saying before, like, I was like, I think I've encountered this in like other stuff, but it's not called by name. But I definitely did encounter it then, or sort of like figured it out from reading about Aristotle's virtue ethics. I learned about that. I was really into philosophy from like grade 10 onwards, pretty much. And one of the philosophies that I sort of always agreed with after I discovered it is Aristotle's virtue ethics, because what that is like, it's not really related to the growth mindset. What it says is that like sort of the soul and what you do to it, and doing like bad acts are acts that corrupt the soul, and good acts are acts that help the soul. But it's sort of like, for instance, like killing a man is bad because then it makes you corrupted inside and makes you like sort of like degrades your soul. But like learning stuff is good because it develops your soul, and or like just who you are as a person. But and that I just reading about that and some other things, I came across the idea of like one of the main things that sort of makes a life meaningful is sort of developing like your soul and your mind, and like sort of who you are and what you're able to do. So that's like, so it sort of comes across the same idea, or at least this, like it's a consequence of those ideas, but I just never knew it really by name.
Yeah, anything that really establishes or emphasizes growth or personal development in any way, or learning stuff,
is like a good thing.
Yeah,
growth and personal development are like are good thing, and things which like don't or reduce that are sort of like to be avoided.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. That's definitely a good way to look at it. But I figure maybe today what we could go over is maybe a little bit about like how the mindsets come about, like how they happen, how we've experienced them, and then maybe a little bit about overcoming them. Well, definitely a little bit about overcoming them, because that's the fun stuff.
That's the most useful part.
That is, yeah. It's not the most useful podcast if we don't get there.
Yeah. This problem exists. Anyway,
I hope you guys can fix it. Let us know.
Yeah. Because we need help.
That the truth?
That's kind of facts, yeah.
That actually is a good example of a growth mindset. Being able to admit that you need help. So there you go.
Damn.
Nice. Good examples for the youth.
Trick question, we actually don't need help because see, we just asked for help, so we already have the growth mindset.
But what you forget is that this is something that you continually have to work on. You can't just stop doing it or stop trying. That's when you become someone with a fixed mindset again.
Damn, that's how they get you.
Yeah, seriously.
Okay, so to start.
Yeah, so I guess before I get into why it happens, just to clarify a little bit more what these mean, the thing that really clarified it for me was Laurie Santos in the course. She had this little chart of like, what would a fixed mindset person say? What would a growth mindset person say or think? Yeah. And on the fixed side, it's things like, if I have to work, then I'm not smart, and effort is a bad sign. That means that you're not inherently talented or good at it.
That's definitely something that you do come across, and it is like a lot of people who try to like pretend that they're like better at stuff more naturally than they are.
That is me to a T. Really? Or that's how I have been a lot. Like, you know, that typical scene that happens in all the movies and stuff where it's like, oh no, parents are coming into the room. I gotta like pull up my homework or whatever so it looks like I'm working. Yeah. I would do the opposite of that. I was like, oh God, parents are coming in the room. Get the homework out of the way. Pull up YouTube or like... Not quite that. Maybe like a video game, but...
What? Oh, it is I, a regular teenage boy. Nothing suspicious here. No trigonometry here.
Yeah, pretty much, because you don't want to like look like you're struggling with it or having problems with the work.
Or like you don't want to be a try-hard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like I would really milk the I'm just so good at this, it comes naturally. Okay. Some of which was good, some of which was bad. Like I ended up bringing like a pillow to math class in grade 10 most of the time. Yeah. I'd legit just like lay down every now and then or like on my desk just in class, and the teacher was pretty chill with it because I was actually like pretty good then. Yeah. And I hadn't
was that because you needed to sleep? You were like really tired?
No, I forget why exactly that started. I don't think I really needed the sleep all that much. I think it was just the aesthetic, or as part of the brand. Okay. You know, that like, I'm so good, I can just like, I already know all this stuff. I can just like sleep in class. It's fine.
Yeah, yeah. What an asshole. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, you're not wrong.
How you've grown.
Yeah, no, I've definitely come a long way since then.
There's an internet quote that is like often pretty cringy, but I think applies. That was like, finding yourself from the past cringy, or like thinking of things you did and going like, oh, it at least shows that you've grown a lot since then.
That is true.
Yeah, like if you never cringed at the person you were in the past, then you haven't really changed at all or developed.
Wow, that's an interesting take on it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is there anyone who doesn't like cringe at their like middle school self?
Really hope not. It's an absolute that everyone in middle school is cringy and weird. Yeah. So
that's just how it works. Yeah.
It's part of nature. You have like a finite amount of cringe you need to get out of your body at some point in your life, and like usually most of it's during middle school. So then you're sort of home free for the rest of your life. So
all right, so getting into a little bit about why these things develop, and please question me because I'm still rolling this around in my head and trying to figure it all out. Okay. This is still like new research for me. The way that this mindset generally develops is as a kind of coping mechanism, like a way to feel...
The fixed one or
the fixed one?
The fixed one.
Thank you. Yeah, specifically the way that the fixed one kind of manifests itself is as a kind of coping mechanism. So if you don't feel like you have inherent value or like you aren't sure about it, this is kind of a way to prove or show that you do. Because I guess the thought is, okay, if I can just prove that I am this like really smart person, that I'm good at math, that I'm good at these things,
Like
then
naturally.
yeah, exactly, that I'm just naturally gifted at these things, then I guess people will like me to a certain extent, or you respect me
Hmm.
or something like that.
That's interesting.
And that if you can get a bunch of these, I guess, talents or achievements or skills, then you'll have kind of value.
One flaw in that obviously is that if you're faking it, doesn't count. But also like the how gifted you are academically all definitely does not correlate to how successful you are, like at all. So I think that's interesting.
Yeah, no, I think you're definitely right. The fixed mindset, just on the whole, is really a misconception, I'll say, or a fallacy, a
Like
way
it's
of
but that's
thinking.
what it's based on.
Yeah, exactly. Like what I'm talking about is not the right way to think, but it is
Hmm.
why, or this kind of thought process.
Yeah, I guess this sort of comes from thinking that you can like quantifiably measure somebody's intelligence or like how good you are as
Mhm.
like a person.
Yeah, it's like you create this kind of ideal persona with all the ideal traits and skills, and you think, okay, this person is perfect and they're going to have great success in the world. People will like them, all that jazz. So I just have to become this person. And then, like you were saying exactly, you aren't actually that person. So every day is another test where if you fail, you think that other people are going to know that you aren't actually this person and they're going to basically just reject you outright
Yeah.
and you won't have any friends and your life will fall apart.
And then the flaw comes from that, like, even that person, if you had like 180 IQ
Mhm.
and like were like naturally gifted at math and science and everything like that, still wouldn't necessarily even be successful.
Very much so. Yeah, there is no correlation. I think it's
Hmm.
over like 120 or something. Specifically in academia, over like 120 or something.
So it's like just to be reasonably clever, but past that doesn't really matter.
Yeah, not really. Past that, there's so much else that matters a lot more.
Hmm.
All of your other skills and whatnot.
And work ethic and how personable you are, how much people want to work with you. Yeah, I think everybody goes through that sort of thinking based on the course we've been taking. That one fallacy that it's like I forget what it's called, but if it's like if I was just like good at this one thing, or if I just had this one thing, then all my problems would be solved.
I think I get that constantly. It's just like, oh my goodness, if I learned this one thing, everything solved, perfect.
Yeah.
Even when I'm
Hmm.
aware of it, I still do it. So I'm
Oh,
like,
okay.
no, but this time the information is really going to happen. It's really
That's
going to
another
work.
fallacy that they talked about in the course. It's like knowing all this stuff that we just talked about, you could still succumb to the last fallacy, which is thinking that the statistics and stuff don't apply to you, and you this time it'll actually be true.
Okay. One thing that I did want to ask you that kind of relates to developing a fixed mindset, but and also kind of relates to getting out of it and like how to
Hmm.
escape it. How do you think about yourself?
That's a very interesting question. I sort of just look a lot into like stuff I could be doing in the future in the way that like that's why I want to learn a lot of languages because like I know that'll open lots of opportunities to like go to different places and get to know lots of different people and stuff that I wouldn't normally get to know and places that I wouldn't normally like be able to live in as comfortably if I didn't speak these languages, or like skills that I could have that I like admire in other people so I learn myself. For instance, music. Like I started learning to play. I took my parents enrolled me in guitar lessons because I asked, but I never practiced. I didn't stick with it because like all the songs like were just like I didn't really know them, and like I didn't really have any reason to like learn guitar. But then I actually taught myself guitar. Like I didn't have a teacher or anything. I just taught it to myself when one of my friends, I think I was like 14 or 15, he came over and saw my dad's guitar and was like, "Oh, I've been teaching it myself." And then he played this really cool sounding song. It wasn't even that complicated, but it sounded so good. I was like, "Holy cow, you can just like bang that out on that guitar? I got to teach this to myself." So then I learned that song, and ever since then I've just been like learning to play more and more guitar songs. But it's sort of stuff like that. I guess the same with the languages too. I always found it impressive when people could speak lots of languages, and I'm like, that's like really useful, like because you can just like talk to loads of people and stuff. So then I'm like, I want to do that. So, so I guess that's sort of how I think of myself. Like, yeah, in terms of this.
All right,
But
quick.
now I'll ask him. Yeah, yeah.
I want to clarify a little bit more, but quick side tangent on what you were talking about. I think that seems very important to learning, is always doing it through your interests or finding like the most interesting way to do it or the most fun way to do it. That just
Yeah.
makes it so much more engaging and fun. And when you're having fun, that like extra bit of emotion will make the memories like solidify so much more and make the process so much easier.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I found it so cool. Like I could that was how why I learned so many songs, was specifically because of yeah, that friend like just came over and played them on the guitar, and I was like, "Whoa, what song is that? Teach me how to play that." Because it sounded really good. But yeah, that makes it so much better. That another thing to do with like learning stuff, or just like learning things in general, is having like a specific reason to learn something, like super concrete. Because in the past, I've like wanted to learn a language. Like I was like, oh, I'll learn Chinese. That's pretty cool. So I'd look at it for like a week, and then get sidetracked with another language, and then get
Mhm.
sidetracked with another language. But the reason I've been able to stick with Swedish so concretely is because I'm actually going there in January in Sweden where they speak Swedish. I know they speak English too, but like I still like that's the reason I'm learning it, is because I'm gonna go there in January. So like having a deadline
Mhm.
and like a specific reason helps a lot.
Yeah, having a fantastic motivation is very helpful, or it
Hmm.
like really pushes you. Big
Yeah.
examples I heard of that was in Limitless by Jim Quick, the book. He was
Mm.
talking about motivation and how important it is for learning. And one thing he said was this woman he taught, she was trying to learn how to speed read, and she ended up learning it really well and was able to go at a pace of like a book a day for a month or two.
Holy, who is that? Ty Lopez?
No, actually, surprisingly not. But she
Yeah.
was able to go at it just like really fast. And they were like complex books too. Like it was intense, like medical stuff,
Hmm.
because I think her mother had developed cancer and she was trying to figure out if there's anything that they could do to like fix or like help the situation.
That's a hell of a reason.
Yeah. So there you
Hmm.
go.
That's true. Yeah, that's another having a reason and a deadline helps a lot.
But anyways, back to the original
Back
question
to
of how you
the
think
question
about
for you.
yourself. I don't know.
Yeah.
I wanted to clarify more on you. Do you
Oh,
think,
okay.
I wanted to say specifically, do you think of yourself as normal or as like just like an ordinary person?
Uh, no, I don't think so. Yeah, not really, but like, I don't really think anybody sort of fits that, because I think everybody has something you can learn from them. So I just try to sort of have the most things you could learn from me as possible, I guess.
Okay, I guess that
Like
makes sense.
I don't think of myself very much as that, but like I don't think really anybody is.
Are you like, do you think of yourself as like better than other people?
No. No, not in that way.
Okay.
Like that's not why I don't think I'm like, yeah, no.
Like you're an individual. You're very
Yeah,
different
that's
from
what
other
that's what I
people.
mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not like,
Yeah, see, because I think one of the reasons that I really struggle with this is that there is that voice in my head that is constantly telling me that. It's
mm.
like, you're smarter than them. You can do this.
Oh yeah,
You're
so it's like
better.
you don't need to try as hard.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And looking back, I think that message was definitely pretty drilled in throughout my life. It's like, you're
Okay.
smart. Those people are dumb.
That's probably why there's not much correlation between like having a super high IQ and being super successful. Because then
Mhm.
it's sort of like the same thing. It's like, oh, you don't really need to like try as hard.
That's
Or
possible. Yeah. A lot of
mhm.
really smart kids are probably taken out early just because they get some, I'll say, good feedback that is not helpful, that they're
Yeah.
just like really smart or really talented. And then they just associate their like worth with performing well. And then they get to a point where they can't handle it and they haven't learned how to learn or like try hard at all. And they think that that's a bad thing. And then they end
Yeah.
up failing or flunking out, or they end up just not trying.
That's sort of one reason I went into physics, was because I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was pretty good at it. Like I'm naturally sort of like a math brain versus like, I don't know, creative brain. I'm more
Yeah.
analytic, I guess. So I went into it just because I was like, one, because I was pretty good at it, but also because I was like, that sounds like so damn smart. I feel like, yeah, I'm studying physics. Like I'm like a genius. But then, yeah, there was so much of that where it's like people were like, you know, trying to be like, oh yeah, this is so easy. Like I don't even have to study. Like people would tell stories. They'd be like, you see that guy? He like only showed up for the final exam, which was worth 70%, and he got a 70 in the course. He's a genius. He's nuts. And like stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I sort of like found one way to get around like thinking like, oh, like I'm so smart, is to just like follow what you're interested in and just try to be the best at it,
Mm-hmm.
or like as good as you can be,
Mm-hmm.
versus just like trying to constantly just like be like a super smart guy.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. That is extremely important. I picked my program basically the same way. I thought that it sounded really smart, but I also thought that I could get good grades pretty easily in it because I don't know, it's aerospace engineering. It's probably just like physics and math. It'll be easy.
Yeah, but then you're like, I just have to work. What the heck?
For year one, easy. Too easy. So good.
Yeah.
And that tricked me. And then in year two, it's like, ooh, fingers are getting a little shaky here. Year three, no good. No good.
Yeah. It's like, whoa, this shit's hard.
Actually, it depended on the class, but some of it was very difficult.
Yeah.
Like flight mechanics? Bruh.
Who knew sending somebody to the moon would be difficult?
Honestly, once you get into the atmosphere, easy. Or sorry, out of the atmosphere, easy.
Yeah.
It's when
Into
you're
the
in
atmosphere. Ooh.
it's when you're in the atmosphere. That's no good. No good.
Yeah.
Very difficult.
But so yeah, question back on you. How do you see yourself?
Yeah, so as I was saying, there's just kind of like very smart, better than other people. That kind of stuff is generally what comes up in my mind. Like I'm this kind of like super genius, and if I were only given the chance, I could like end poverty just, you know, in a month or something.
Yeah.
It's like if I only put my mind to it and like had all the right resources, it could happen.
I think I've definitely sort of felt that way in the past. Like, you know, like, oh, so smart. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I think one way I sort of got around that was going to a school where there's lots of people who think they're so smart and being like, holy, that's annoying. So I don't want to do that. And just sort of like, I'm just going to do my own thing and then just be good at that. I don't care if other people think I'm smart because I know I'm smart.
That is good. That is, I think, a very healthy way to do it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a good way. Surround yourself by those people and be like, wow, that's not it.
And then actually properly surround yourself with people who have healthy and growth mindsets.
Yeah, you can skip to step 2 if you want.
Yeah, especially if you're already there, you don't have to do the other one.
Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, maybe try it for like a week or something, see how it goes, and then go back.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I never thought about this to do with like growth or fixed mindset, but now that you relate it, it is actually like a big part of it, I guess.
Yeah, it seems to be. And something that both Dweck said in her book, and I read in another book, which was also quite good. It's actually surprisingly related to like the last chapter in Dweck's book, which was all about like how to implement it. The book was called The Courage to be Disliked.
Ooh, that's actually something I've been thinking about a lot as well lately.
Oh, yeah?
But just like specifically that sort of idea in that statement. But continue.
Okay, yeah. But one of the things that was echoed in both of them was learning or accepting to be or yourself as normal or ordinary.
Yeah.
And that's something or a statement that immediately just sends like shivers down my spine.
Thinking of yourself as like regular.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it was put really well in The Courage to Be Disliked that the reason that you don't want to think of yourself as normal is because you think normal means that you're incapable, that you're just some kind of, I don't know how to say it,
like unoriginal sham.
yeah, unoriginal, exactly. Just some regular schmuck. But it's a very fundamentally flawed way of thinking, specifically because one of the reasons that growth mindset people are basically always more successful than people with fixed mindsets is because they're realistically able to see where they're at and see who they are, what their skills are. They're not like, oh, I'm obviously the smartest. They're like, okay, this is how smart I am. And if I want to get like smarter, if I want to do better, I have to put this much work in. So they're able to actually like make plans, evaluate themselves. So you have to accept like, okay, I am a mortal human being. These are my skills in order to actually succeed or excel.
Yeah.
But what I'm struggling with right now is I can't just skip that step because I'm like, okay, I know logically that this makes sense. So can I just go from thinking I'm the best to just being the best?
Yeah.
But you can't skip that step.
You have to take yourself down a few pegs.
Yeah, exactly.
I think another reason that's sort of fundamentally flawed is because like everybody has admirable traits and like strengths and things that they can do better than like loads of people that they're super good at. Like pretty much everyone has something they're super good at. So sort of that's why there's sort of nothing wrong with being just a normal person, because everyone is, but also no one is when it comes to specific areas, unless you're real dumb.
No, Evan, come on, that's a fixed mindset thing to say.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That book that wasn't what I thought you were gonna say with the title like with a title like The Courage to Be Disliked.
Yeah, I was surprised too. Like I just read it probably a week ago or something, and I was amazed at how much overlap there was at certain parts.
Yeah, with the title, I was thinking it related to one of my friends recently has been distraught because of not distraught, not actually, just like talking about how they're like sort of they want to please so many people, specifically on social media. And they're like, I don't know what to do. Somebody's going to dislike me either way. Sort of my thoughts on that are, as long as the people who the only people whose opinions you really need to care about are the people who know you well enough to know like who you actually are and what you're actually about. Everyone else, like if somebody who doesn't know me doesn't like me, I don't care because they don't know who I am.
Yeah, I think that is good. And I don't know how related this point is to the general topic of the episode, but being disliked by people is essentially freedom, or that is how you like live a life that's true to yourself. Because fundamentally, if no one dislikes you, then you're living a life where you're just basing it around pleasing other people.
And because people disagree so much, then you haven't actually really made any concrete stance on anything, or sort of like done anything actually significant.
Yeah, you're never going to be happy in your life if you're constantly just trying to make other people like happy.
Yeah, exactly. That's very true.
You should be doing things for other people. Like that is the route to happiness, but you shouldn't be trying to get other people's approval or respect or make them like you.
Work towards improving the quality of life of as many people on the planet as you can, but it doesn't matter how many people actually like you as a person.
Yeah. You doing things for other people, that's your job, that's your tasks. Them liking you, that's not your job. You have no control over that. That's fundamentally just an impossible task.
I'm about it.
Even if you do try and please everybody, I don't know if it's even possible.
It usually doesn't work unless you just are an absolute flip-flop, which a lot of people don't like as well. So yeah. So now we've definitely covered part 1 of
hella. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Of all this growth mindset stuff. So you had 3.
I think I had 3 parts. I think what I said part two was how it manifested in our lives.
Okay.
So you said you had some experience with having a fixed mindset, right?
Well, that was just sort of like talking about like the program that I chose
Ah, okay.
originally, and like, and growth versus fixed. I discovered fixed with Aristotle and those Greek lads.
Hmm.
So, how about, and you've talked about yours. So I guess we sort of essentially covered part two.
Quite a bit. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I guess the one thing I didn't mention, one other way that it manifests a bit is that sometimes I just can't study for things
Yeah,
because it's just like the expectation of being perfect is too much. And it's just so overwhelming that I just can't. And then I
that's
end up just
interesting.
not. Yeah.
Ha, can you explain a bit more?
It's like, okay, this is an important test. This is a significant part of a significant class, right? I would
Yeah,
need to do well on this because, obviously my grade is equal to my self-worth.
yeah,
That the
okay, yeah,
flawed logic that's going on there.
yeah, yeah,
So I'm like, okay, this is intensely important. I have to do an outstanding job and I have to knock this out of the park. I know that, in order to do well on a test, you're supposed to study or whatever. So I have to come up with the perfect study plan. It needs to be in depth, it needs to cover everything multiple times over. And then sometimes I'll make the plan and then it's such an intense workload that I just can't even get started.
okay,
Yeah. It's just
huh.
like, oh God, I'm not going to be able to study this the exact way that I want to or perfectly. So it's like, I can't even try. And then I end up just putting it off, putting it off until about the last minute. So that's why I'll normally or what happened a lot in my engineering degree was I'd wake up at like 2 or 3 a.m. the morning of an exam and start studying.
Yeah, I know a lot of people. I know a lot of people who it would be about midnight, and we would all be in the same. This was in first year in dorms.
Mm-hmm.
We would all be having the same exam at like 10 a.m. tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I would be going to bed around like midnight or 1. I'd be like, whew, that was a lot of studying. I hope I'm ready,
Mm-hmm.
because I figure whatever you know by midnight the day before a morning exam, that's all you're going to know. And then a lot of people would be like, literally at that moment, they'd be like, time to start studying. I'm not going to sleep. And I'm like, oh, okay. I feel like everybody sort of has that for things that they just build up to be so important
Mm-hmm.
that it's just like I don't even know how to begin because it's just like this absolute monolith
Yeah.
that I don't know how to like break apart into smaller chunks
Mm-hmm.
that are more manageable.
Yeah, and the worst part too was that the grades on the exams usually reinforced my behavior. I'd usually do fine. So it was like,
Yeah,
all right, I guess this is okay.
yeah.
Or this is just how it works.
It's not how good you could be doing.
No, it's not. And it doesn't work when it's really the exams get harder.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, when it's more than like 100 pages worth of stuff.
Yeah, people have like natural talents or abilities. Like I'm really good at taking tests, just generally speaking. I seem to
Yeah,
do really well. Like tests are honestly a time and a half. They're so much fun to take.
I feel that depending on the one. Some are not fun to take.
I know. I
But
think what I like is that there's no pressure during a test
uh like versus like public speaking or like doing a presentation or something.
versus studying.
I get that. I sort of get that.
It's like, all right, I've done all I can. Now it's just time to show up and see what happens.
With my studying, the main issue I do is, let's say I have the exam. Let's say it's the I have the exam on the 10th. I'll start studying on the 1st and be like, holy, look at me, I'm nuts. I'm studying a week and a half in advance. I'm like such a good study habit.
Hmm.
And then I'll study pretty hard from like the 1st to the 3rd, and then I'll be
Hmm.
like, I've studied so hard, like I'm good. I've only covered like one of 3 chapters, and then it'll be like the 8th or the 9th, and I'll be like, I have to actually finish this stuff. It gives me a false sense of security. I'm like, how could someone with such good study habits like be unprepared? Impossible.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I start like too early, and then I lull myself into a false
Mm.
sense of security. I'm like, see, if I start 2 weeks in advance, then it's fine if I only study for 10 minutes a day. Because when you add it up, and then I'm like, wait, even when you add it up, that's not enough.
Yeah, not quite. You need to do a little
Yeah,
bit more.
Yeah. So mine's kind of the opposite. Mine's like it's spread over a long time, but I need to actually be a bit more intense about it versus yours is like at the last minute, but like very intense.
Oh man, this is just bringing back memories of like sitting in the computer lab, binge watching Khan Academy videos.
Oh, I did that for what was it? Organic chemistry.
Oh,
It
fair.
was
That'll do it.
like I think it was like 3 days before the final, and I failed the practice, and I was like, oh god. So I just watched like literally I think 3 hours of like intro to organic chemistry. There was like 1 2 hour and 1 1 hour video on YouTube, and then I was like, I think I get it.
I think in like the, let's say, 8 hours leading up to almost all of my calculus tests, I would just
Mhm.
spend that time binging Khan Academy. That was like probably 6 or 8 hours of just Khan Academy in a row. Anyways, so dealing with fixed mindsets and developing growth mindsets then.
The good part.
Yeah.
So what is the good stuff?
You just have to find people with fixed mindsets and judge them. I think we already went over this.
Judge them.
Yeah, is that not what you're doing?
Damn.
Actually, in the book, Dweck laid out a 4-step journey to developing a growth mindset. So let's go through them. Step number 1 is to accept that you have a fixed mindset.
Okay. That's a difficult step.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like accepting that there's inherently like flaws in you.
In the way you think.
The thing she compared it to was Alcoholics Anonymous. How you have to first accept the fact that you're an alcoholic, apparently.
That you have a problem.
Yeah. And that you will always be an alcoholic. That's something that you always refer to yourself that way. So that you always know that you're vulnerable, that you could relapse.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because if you're like, I haven't had a drink in like 20 years, that doesn't mean you like it any less when you have one after 20 years.
It's just a difference in language saying, I am an alcoholic. I have been sober for 20 years. You don't say like, oh, I am sober now. It's like, I have been sober. This is what I've been doing, but I am an alcoholic.
Still, yeah. That's like intrinsic, but I've dealt with it.
Yeah, I've got strategies to fix the problem. You constantly have to work on it.
So what would step 2 be then?
Step 2 was to find your fixed mindset triggers.
Wow, this is a lot like AA.
Yeah, actually. There you go. But yeah, apparently it's different for everybody. Like it comes up in different situations. And you can have a fixed mindset for, say, one thing, but growth for other things. Like you could say that, okay, maybe you can change your intelligence. You can get smarter if you study. But people are just inherently good or bad at writing. Like that's just how it works.
That makes sense. People have a lot of different thoughts on a lot of different things. A lot of people probably fall into that with fitness.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking too.
Yeah, they're probably like, I can definitely like study and make myself smarter at like most like school subjects. But just the way I'm built, I'm just like not very fit. Like that's just the way I am. I feel like a lot of people would fall into that. What would be like an example of some of those?
Like a trigger that would set off a fixed mindset?
Yeah, because like I can't really imagine something like that.
I guess one thing that generally sends me like spiraling a bit is getting feedback or critiques. Because when I get them, I inherently just internalize it immediately as, okay, this is like a comment on me just as a human being. These problems are like with me. So it's like, okay, you need to like work on your grammar or something. It's like, okay, I just have bad grammar. I'm bad at this. That's the initial reaction. So it's something that I find is a trigger.
Okay, I guess mine would probably be with feedback. It would be a fixed mindset thing, but it would be the opposite. It would probably be like if I get like a mark that's not as good as I hoped on a test, and then I look through, it's like, oh, okay, well, like I'm still like super smart. I just didn't look at the specific stuff. Just like brushing it off is like, well, that like they don't even know. Like it doesn't matter. But like it kind of matters. Like it shouldn't just be brushed off. Like it is significant. It's not who you are.
What would you do then moving forward? Would you change anything after you get like a worse mark?
I would probably like think like, okay, there is room. Like you don't just need to like maybe little tweak. Like if you got like a mark you really didn't like, you probably should significantly change the way you're doing this course.
That's definitely more of a growth mindset way to think about it, which is good. Something that's more fixed that I've slightly fallen into a few times in the past is, well, I got a bad mark, so that means I'm just not good in this class. So therefore, I just shouldn't put any effort into this class because, well, I'm not good at it, so I can't get a good mark anyways.
Okay. Yeah, that would be an issue.
That it is, yeah.
One interesting thing, I guess, to do with that on the philosophy
Yes.
branch that I was talking about before is, I forget his name, but he was a European dude who was talking about, his main thing was like how people communicate with each other and like what's going on inside versus what you're able to express to somebody else. And the reason that he was ironically sort of such a good source to take from this is because originally he had really bad communication skills and he like wasn't very good at making friends and like wasn't very good at relationships and stuff. And so it was like from a point of someone who like doesn't have really anything like naturally. So he has to learn about it all and see what works and what doesn't work and stuff like that. So I guess with courses and stuff, you sort of want the people who are naturally bad at it, but still find ways to succeed to like sort of like that's almost more valuable than somebody who's naturally good at it, you know? Because then their strategies can work for anyone. Sometimes being bad at stuff is good if you still succeed in that thing. If you just find a way that you sort of you get an in and like develop an understanding.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely the ideal is to just fail quite a bit and fail like quickly so that you can learn. That's actually just generally the best way to learn. Because like if you mess up, you're going to remember.
And finding ways to deal with it and then succeeding the next time at the same thing you failed at once you find a strategy that works.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's sort of like I would want, let's say, a chemistry teacher who was very much not naturally gifted at chemistry. Like I would want a chemistry teacher who didn't have a natural gift for chemistry at all, because then they know what it's like to like not get it.
That is probably best too, because people who are naturally gifted often don't have to think about stuff as much, so they don't know how to explain it in different ways or externalize it.
But what were the concrete strategies for dealing with it? They're the steps where admitting you have a fixed mindset, and then finding what sets it off.
Those are the first two steps. And then the third is where it gets kind of fun. You have to name your fixed mindset persona.
Okay.
So that asshole who's in your head, who's telling you that you're not that smart or whatnot.
Or you're super smart.
Or that you're super smart. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That person, you have to give them a persona. Ideally, something that you can very easily like stand up to or critique.
Okay.
Yeah, there were some clever examples. Some people just give them a name. It's like, okay, this is Jeffrey. Dwayne or Jeffrey.
Yeah.
And I think it's best if you like flesh them out as much as possible. One really clever name that I saw was someone said that their persona was Z, which is the opposite of their first initial, which is an S. So it's like this is the mirror version of themselves. I was like,
the shadow.
I know, right? That's incredible.
Yeah.
One of the other examples I saw in the book was just straight up took a TV character who was very, I'll say like slossy.
Sure.
Yeah, just kind of lazy, sits around a lot. It's like, wow, look at that jackass. So like whenever they picture it, it's just someone like sitting in the corner of their mind, just like high or something, just saying shit to them.
That's interesting. So it's literally just creating the bizarro version of yourself.
Yeah, exactly. This is the person who is telling you all this weird or messed up shit.
The devil on your shoulder.
More or less, yeah. And then step 4 is to educate your fixed mindset persona and kind of talk them through the journey of like getting to a growth process. So it seems like you're almost supposed to have a conversation with them, especially like whenever they come up. It's like, okay, no, what you're saying is not actually right, and here's why.
Did you name yours?
I haven't quite. I think I did one time. I think I read about this concept actually a while back. I think it was in Limitless, and I gave it a name, but it was not memorable enough for me to remember mine.
It's just like Steve or something.
I think it was like Joffrey or some shit like that. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Holy.
What?
That's a little too hateable. There's no way you'd want to educate and reason with Joffrey.
Who's Joffrey?
From Game of Thrones.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
I think
How'd you come up with the name Joffrey?
I think it was because you named your clock on like your phone Joffrey one time in like middle school.
Because it's the worst.
Maybe, yeah, that might do
it. Yeah, no. I'm like, if you picture him, you're just gonna be like, oh, I hate that guy.
Joffrey, that's not the little one.
No, it's not. It's the blonde one who's like inbred or something.
The like teenager
beheads
guy?
Yeah, he just like beheads.
Cool.
People and stuff.
Cool.
It's kind of the worst.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, some shit like that. I don't know what I should name mine though.
If you find something, I'll think of one for mine too. Butthead.
Ooh, there you go.
No, probably not very productive.
I mean, it might be, because then whenever you think about them saying the shit they're saying, it's like, heh, it's funny. Says Butthead.
Yeah. Okay, so then once you've reached those 4 steps, then you've achieved growth mindset, and then you're done.
Except you're not, because you come back to step number 1.
Every single time.
Mindset. Yeah.
I've thought of a lot of these things, but never sort of in the names or in the processes that you've named.
Me neither. It was kind of interesting to see all of these.
And would you say these have like actually had like a large impact on the way you live your life or your decisions?
Well, I read about them, to be honest, immediately before this podcast. So
really,
yeah, I was cramming a bit, to be honest, but
that's pretty ironic.
I know, right? It is a prime example of what not to do right here.
Well, it's better than what I did. I did no preparation.
Ooh, geez.
I read Aristotle like 5 years ago.
Wow. Honestly, man. Yeah, so the jury's still out on whether or not it will help me.
The core of it is just sort of finding like what you want to do, how to do it, and knowing that you can be better at things and it doesn't matter what you're naturally good at, really.
One thing actually that I have found has helped, that I think I heard about in the well-being course, because that was a while back that I did that, so there's been some time to do it, was asking for help.
Mm-hmm.
That is a really great way to put it into practice. Like, it always tears me apart whenever I do it, because I'm like, oh, my assignment isn't finished yet, but I know I need to get feedback on it, but it's not finished yet. So I'm just always get this like tense up that like the professor's going to judge me or some shit, which is what I'm hoping they're going to do, right? I want them to give me feedback.
Yeah. If they were like, this is fine, then you'd be like, okay, what?
It's like, are you sure? Is this like, are you going to give it an A+?
Like, give me something.
Yeah, but that's something that I would almost never do before because of that like fear of getting judged. But I have been pushing myself to do quite a bit recently for the last couple semesters, and it's been turning out quite well so far.
That's something that is difficult. That is usually a good thing to do when you need it. Definitely a good skill to have, to know how to ask.
And just generally for university, you should be talking to your professors and asking for feedback on most of your assignments, at least anything major.
Yeah, I should. That's something I'll definitely take from this and start doing. Because yeah, before it was just like I would just get a bad mark and be like, guess I just need to study harder and study more.
But you can actually just go and like ask them for help or some shit, apparently. Like I've been doing it and it's really goddamn helpful. A lot of the time, especially with assignments, like I find this myself too, whenever like if someone asks me for feedback on something, I'll give them like a bullet list of shit that I would change. Professors do the same thing. So now you've got like a checklist that you can use to make your project like really great in your professor's eyes. It's like personalized to you and that professor.
I remember actually in one of my specific courses, we had to make, I think throughout the course, we had to make like 7 or 8 lab write-ups. And I'd always put a ton of effort in and get like a mediocre mark. And then for the last few, I'm like, these are worth like the most amount of marks. Like they're worth a lot, these last three. So I guess I'll actually read the feedback. And then so much of it was like so many marks I lost were just like, oh, the diagrams have to be black and white and labeled in the bottom left in this font. And like you have to put a table of contents and like all this stuff that like it literally wasn't the content at all. It
Yeah.
was just like formatting stuff where I'm like, I really should have read this earlier. I would have gotten a lot better marks.
Oh
And then
my
I got
God,
like
seriously.
literally probably like 15 or so percent higher just because I just read those things and made those like formatting changes.
Just asking for help, it's great in that you're going to get much better marks because, well, you're getting like the tailorized feedback from your professor or TA or whatnot on like exactly what they want to see. And it also really challenges the idea of you having to be perfect or the smartest all the time, because you're not handing in, but you're showing someone this like incomplete assignment and like asking for help. And then you have to get feedback and internalize it and use it well. So it's just
I'll just be
constant
like,
practice.
they don't know me.
That is often like the reaction whenever I like open the email and I'm like, oh my God, I did so shit. There's so much feedback. But then I'm like, okay, give it like a couple minutes.
I see one thing I see a lot that I've definitely done myself as well is for like feedback like that is you try to like dispute it or like defend it. It's like, no, actually I did do that and it's here. And it's like, wait, this is the person that's grading it. Clearly they don't see it. And you need to do it some more. Like that's the only person whose opinion matters on this thing.
I mean, if it's graded, yeah, sure, maybe argue a bit.
No, but like when you like are asking for feedback before. Yeah. And it's like you wouldn't actually say it to them, but you'd be like, they don't know. I put that right here, and it's like, wait, no, this is the person you need to actually have like it. So
yeah, no, 100%. Just practicing getting feedback is so good. It's definitely been helping with my like work ethic just overall. I don't just leave stuff to the last minute anymore. I'm actually able to like work on stuff like when I get the assignment to when it's handed in, which is neat.
that is pretty.
Because I'm like, okay, I know that I want to get a couple rounds of feedback in on this stuff. So I got to get started now and get a like working draft done so that I can send it out for feedback, wait a couple days and then get more feedback back and then do
you
it
need
again.
to finish it like more than a week before it's actually due.
Depending on what you're doing, even earlier. Or you don't have to finish it necessarily. You just need to get to a certain point where you can get feedback.
And you have something.
Like if you have like an essay or something, it could just be an outline or like what you think you want to research. And then you just go and ask them about it. And then they'll be like, oh yeah, this is a good idea. Here's some like sources you can use. Or I think this is a shit idea. You should try something else.
That's something Sangi, my girlfriend, shout out. I've been hearing her process a lot because she's doing her thesis.
Mm-hmm.
And so she'll like write this thing and then it'll be like, because she's obviously never written a thesis before, it'll be like, so scrutinize and like you have to change like this much.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, yeah, it's difficult because your gut instinct is just to be like, no, it's good. Like, just like, well, you don't know what you're talking about. But then you're like, nah, they do.
They actually do. It's actually their job to know what they're talking about.
Yeah. so that's sort of the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
Feedback is good usually.
Especially
when it's from the person whose opinion matters.
You should also, especially if it's important, request feedback from other people too. Don't take it as much as like the gospel as you would if it was your professor. You have more of a say in that feedback about like whether or not they're right or not, but you should definitely get just as much as you can. So that really helps with growth mindset. And then the last thing I'll say on the topic is just going and reading or learning about the fact that a growth mindset is possible or that you can improve through hard work can give you more of a growth mindset.
That makes sense. Just role models and
just
like finding
believing
new
it
traits
generally.
you admire.
Yeah.
Instead of finding people admirable who have large amounts of natural skill, you can find people admirable who just sort of develop skills.
Or just like reading books or articles or things like that on the subject. That makes you have more of a growth mindset or like helps you work harder and all that stuff.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Do you have any recommendations?
I mean, mindset's a pretty solid one.
Okay,
That's a good book.
I would have guessed.
The Science of Well-Being, it's in there. That's quite good as well. Great course. If you want to check it out, I would recommend that people finish the course.
Yeah. Yeah. I need to do that.
Yeah.
That's
just a quick, like, passive aggressive stab in there.
My being has not been well or scientific.
Jeez, Evan, you need to get to the doctor then.
I know.
Dr. Santos, that is.
Yeah. She's the good shit.
That she is. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what else there's probably articles and stuff.
So everyone out there, make your mindset unfixed. I know that sounds weird, like it's something you'd want to fix, but don't fix it.
Unfix yourself, folks.
Make it larger. Grow your mindset.
You have to unlimit yourself and grow your mindset.